Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. By way of introduction of our feature subject tonight, maybe my favorite basketball player of all time, there's this.
John Havlicek. Havlicek has been Mr. Everything for Boston. Hondo became only the 8th man in the history of the NBA to score 20,000 points.
Seconds, Hondo off again! He's got it with a second! John Havlicek won it!
That was an amazing shot by John Havlicek in one of the most famous basketball games of all time, the crucial 5th game of the 1976 NBA Finals against Phoenix. It was an amazing shot, but of course that's not even the most famous John Havlicek audio clip, but we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. John Havlicek died recently at the age of 79. What a great athlete, what a great basketball player. What a great Boston Celtic, and what a great guy. John came out of Ohio. He was on the legendary 1960 Ohio State basketball team that won the national championship. His teammates included Jerry Lucas, Larry Siegfried, and Bobby Knight. He was a great three-sport athlete, and in fact, he was one of the first people to be drafted in 2 sports. The Cleveland Browns drafted him to be a wide receiver, and he was cut on the last round, and it's a good thing he was, because he went on to become the greatest 6th man and the greatest swing man in basketball history. Fred Auerbach created the concept of the 6th man for Frank Ramsey before Havlicek, but Havlicek refined it, and that's probably where the 6th man award comes from. Havlicek got the nickname Hondo from the 1953 movie starring John Wayne, and it was a good nickname for him because he was always coming to the rescue of the Celtics. Of course, as I alluded to before, he's part of the greatest call in basketball history, and probably second only to the Bobby Thompson home run call in terms of famous sports broadcasts. We talked about it when we did the Hal Greer podcast. That's Johnny Most. Havlicek stole the ball. Havlicek went on to become one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history, and I'm going to let New England Sports Network talk about his career.
Havlicek's great NBA career, 13 All-Star selections, 8-time world champion, including Finals MVP in 1974. 10 years later, he joined the hallowed Basketball Hall of Fame. Now time for additional insight on Havlicek's career, spent entirely with the Green Team.
When he first joined the team, he didn't shoot that much. And Red said, "What's the problem, Red?" He says, "I don't know whether to shoot or not, Red." And Red says, "When the ball hits your hand and you see the basket, you got to go. You got the green light." That's all they had to tell him.
I remember when he was a rookie, we thought he was kind of a gunner. He always needed to have the ball, take shots. And of course, then he developed into this wonderful team player, great defender, guard or forward, never was out of breath, run the floor all day.
He just run. And I call him the leaping leader. That shot against Phoenix in that triple overtime, that's his game. He just leans toward the basket and throws it in, but he runs and he runs.
I remember reading a story on him back in the late 60s, early 70s. He had a pulse rate probably lower than anybody playing pro sports at the time, and that enabled him to constantly run and run and run and run. I mean, he never used to get tired.
The only other people who played more minutes than he did for a concentrated period of time were centers who basically ran from the dotted line to the dotted line, or maybe foul line to dotted line, or dotted line to foul line. John Havlicek ran end line to end line, and most stars play 38 to 40 minutes. John Havlicek played 48 anytime it was necessary, which at 2 positions, each an all-star level, giving his coach a tremendous advantage.
He was the prototypical 6th man on some of those great Celtics teams in the late 1960s. But he became a focal point of the next group with Dave Collins and Paul Silas. He became a real dominant player. He has to go down as one of the all-time best athletes ever, and who will ever forget the Havlicek stole the ball back against the Philadelphia 76ers back in 1964.
Greer's putting the ball in play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it. Oh, it's that goal. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over. It's all over. Johnny Havlicek is being robbed from the fan. Johnny Havlicek.
John Havlicek has not been equaled in his 2-position capacity since he retired in 1978. There's been nobody like John Havlicek. He was really a miniature bird in terms of the versatility and the complexity of his game. Remains the only Celtic ever to lead his team in scoring, rebounding, and passing in the same season, 1969-70. And that's something we'll never see again for sure.
There isn't a person out there who's played more games or scored more points in a Celtics uniform than John Havlicek. He's 5th in rebounds, top 2 in assists and free throws made. Here's Boston Globe national NBA writer Gary Washburn now on Hondo's legacy.
Before there was Pierce or Bird or McHale or Garnett or Allen or Irving, there was John Havlicek. Although he never played with a three-point shot, John Havlicek remains the Celtics' all-time leading scorer, piling up 26,395 points in his illustrious 16-year career. Hondo was the branch that connected the Cousy-Russell era and the Celtics title teams of the 1970s. Those 1970s teams aren't talked about much, but Havlicek joined JoJo White and Dave Cowens for another version of the Big Three to win championships in 1974 and 1976 under coach Tom Heinsohn. The original sixth man, Havlicek was named to 13 All-Star games and averaged 22 points a game in the playoffs, and he was also named the 1974 NBA Finals MVP as the Celtics defeated the Milwaukee Bucks. But Havlicek's most famous moment occurred in 1965 when he stole the ball in the waning seconds of Game 7 of the Eastern Finals against the Philadelphia 76ers, prompting announcer Johnny Most to give his most famous call of "Havlicek steals the ball." Havlicek retired after the 1978 season, was considered one of the great small forwards of all time. And his number 17 was raised to the rafters of Boston Garden just a few months after he retired. He eventually moved to Florida, was a board member of the Genesis Foundation for Children, and also a close Celtics observer. Farewell, Hondo.
Boston teammate Bill Russell tweeting his condolences. It is getting difficult each time I hear about another contemporary that passes. What is harder is when we lose guys like John Havlicek. He was not just a teammate and a great guy, but he was family. That is how our Celtics teams were. R.I.P. Hondo. Havlicek was voted one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history in 1996. Celtics highlighted his charitable contributions in their statement. He helped raise money for the Genesis Foundation for Children for more than 3 decades.
In his last game at the Boston Garden, he got a 7-minute standing ovation when he was introduced. He scored 29 points, he had 8 assists and 4 rebounds, and he was 38 years old at the time.
For 16 years, John Havlicek has laced up sneakers and gone to work for the Boston Celtics. He estimates that he has logged 11,000 miles during his fabulous career. You've just seen him lace up those sneakers for the last time. John Havlicek will retire from the Celtics today, and number 17 will be raised high atop the ceiling here at the Boston Garden to join those other legendary numbers. And now the legend will be introduced for the last time.
6'5" number 17, John Havlicek.
Of course, besides all this, he was a wonderful person, and here he is addressing the fans at the Boston Garden at the end of his career.
What more could one ask than to be a part of a city like Boston, a part of so many championship teams? And as I said before, I'm going to remember the flags, the fans, the greetings at the airport, the smiling faces in the parades, and the warm handshakes everywhere I go. What more can I say? Thank you, Boston. I love you.
Well, as I said, he was one of, if not my favorite player in basketball history. There were certainly guys more talented, although not that many. I don't know if there was anybody better conditioned, but no one ever combined the traits of effort, versatility, the ability to rise to the moment, and a great personality like John Havlicek did. And I'm not sure anyone ever will again. But we're going to give the final word on John Havlicek to the man who saw in him what others might not have been able to see. The greatest basketball mind in basketball history, Red Auerbach.
What can I say about John Havlicek in 1 minute? It's impossible. He epitomizes everything there is, not only as an athlete. Most of you people know John as an athlete. I know him as a person as well. John, if I had a son, he was like John, I'd be the happiest man in the world.
That's quite a tribute. We're going to move on now to Mark Medoff, who died recently at the age of 79. He was an acclaimed playwright. He wrote the play Children of a Lesser God, a play a little like The Miracle Worker, except instead of a blind girl, it involves a strong-willed deaf girl and her relationship with the speech teacher at a state school for the deaf who attempts to understand her world. Children of the Lesser God won the 1980 Tony Award as the best play on Broadway, and it was made into a movie in 1986, and the female lead, Marlee Maitlin, won the Academy Award as the best actress that year in that movie. Here's the trailer.
Is that?
That's Sarah.
Is she a teacher too? She was one of the brightest students we've ever had.
He was warned about her.
Why doesn't she use her voice?
Sarah's not hard of hearing. She's totally deaf.
Sarah, you are the most mysterious, beautiful, angry person I have ever met.
Look, James, I've seen this kind of thing before. It just doesn't work. I love her.
Don't be sad for you.
What began as a simple challenge
All right, I won't.
became a love story beyond words. Academy Award winner William Hurt.
Man, you want to talk to me? Then you learn my language. Speak!
Marlee Maitlin.
I hate you for not learning how to speak. Sarah, I love you.
Children of a Lesser God.
Help me. Teach me.
Love has a language all its own.
Marlee Maitlin gives a lot of credit to Mark Medoff for her career, as does Neil Patrick Harris, who was from New Mexico, which is where Mark Medoff lived. Mark Medoff was a nice Jewish boy born in all places, Mount Carmel, Illinois. That's in central Illinois. His father was a physician. I think that's probably why he was there. But he moved to Miami Beach, played basketball for Miami Beach High, and then went to the University of Miami and Stanford. His first play to be staged in New York City was When You Comin' Back, Red Ryder, and he won the 1974 Drama Desk and Obie Award for Outstanding New Playwright. New York and Los Angeles were always calling him, but he decided to settle in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and he taught for many years at New Mexico State University. He was very giving of his time, and here he is dispensing advice to the young students at a writing festival in Las Cruces.
Be unafraid to try things, to go where your imagination takes you. Don't censure yourself right off the bat. Be your best self whenever possible. That's what I always tell them, be your best self. But there's a difference between being unafraid and being reckless. You have to really want to do what you're doing if it's something you're aspiring to as opposed to something you're settling for. If you're settling, then that's sad. But if you're aspiring, then you have to give everything you've got. You can't hold anything back.
Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. And we're going to close tonight with Fay McKenzie, who died recently at the age of 101. Every time I think I found somebody who's been in Hollywood longer than anyone else, I find someone who may have been in Hollywood longer. When she was 10 weeks old in 1918, Fay McKenzie played Gloria Swanson's baby in a silent movie. She did a couple of other silents as a kid before she went to Beverly Hills High. Beverly Hills High is getting up there on our podcast list, but she's best known for being Gene Autry's co-star in a number of the westerns made by Republic Studios in the early 1940s. Fay was pretty, she could sing, and she was a pretty good dancer and actress. And Gene was the big gun at Republic. He was the biggest cowboy star of the time until Republic started grooming Roy Rogers. Here Fay talks about Gene Autry.
Great fun working with Gene, making those films. They were just delightful. They really were. He really was the biggest moneymaker in the business.
Are you going to San Ramon for the fiesta, Mr. Autry?
No, I'm on business.
In San Ramon, all business stops for the fiesta. This one's in my honor. I'm going home to make a moving picture.
I'm sort of in the picture business myself.
His films made more money. So I was so thrilled and honored when I had the casting to do several of his films. And I probably would have done more, but wartime, and I went doing a lot of shows for fellows at that time. Oh, he was a darling, nice man. Really enjoyed working with him. He was great. We had wonderful times on those films. I loved doing them. They're wonderful.
Well, in all those movies as the singing cowboy, Gene never kissed Fay McKenzie. He came close once or twice, but he did sing with her, and we're going to close our tribute to Fay McKenzie with Gene and her singing Down Mexico Way from their first movie of the same name in 1941.
You'll find a thrill on every hill. You make a million friends every day. So come along and sing a song, and you belong down Mexico way.
Follow me and you'll see when each amigo tell you to stay. So take a dance, I'll see you there. there, most anywhere down there.